Fantasy Edge podcast. I'm your host, Chris Dell. This episode is brought to you by bettingpredators.com, Baller X Labs, and the Bet Life podcast. Today's show is a special one. We have a truly special guest on the pod, one of the most respected and well-known names in the entire fantasy football and DFS industries, three-time FSWA award winner, co-founder of Establish the Run, the host of one of the most downloaded fantasy football podcasts on the planet. Every week during the draft season, he reviews ADP movement on ETR's Market Monday podcast as well, for people trying to understand what's going on in the best ball market and how to apply it to your drafts. He is the official DFS cash game king. Sorry, Mr. Peter Overzet of the fantasy football world, and the unofficial prince of outlandish and unadulterated sex jokes on the internet. You can find him on X at Adam Levitan and at establishtheRun.com. Adam, man, appreciate you coming on. Welcome to the Fantasy Edge podcast.
Hey, very nice intro. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just going to dive right into things here. Talk about, we're about 10 days out from the 2026 NFL draft now. A lot of ADP movement. We'll talk some risers, some fallers, some sleepers, some news, then we'll get out of here. So obviously a lot of the risers and fallers right now are rookies, right? Like people overreacting and underreacting based on landing spots, scheme fits, and things like that. So wanted to kind of jump into some of the overall, just things you're looking at, like movements over the last, 7 to 10 days, or even over the last month for non-rookies, like anything that's jumped out to you or surprised you at all, things you're looking to take advantage of other than just us jumping into these specific player takes and ADP takes.
Yeah, I think the best ball community has this thirst for rookies, right? And you kind of understood why. The more unknown, the higher the ceiling is. In other words, I know that certain guys that go in round 12 are never going to finish as a top 3 at their position. I've seen enough of them. The NFL sample is big enough. When you start to get into the unknowns with the rookies, who knows? Maybe you could get Puka Nacua. And so in the best ball stuff, when these stuff is really top heavy, that stuff is worth taking a swing on at the right price. I thought last year it started to get too out of control. You had Genti going at the round 1-2 turn. You had Travion Henderson going in round 3. You had Teteroya McMillan, who had a fine year, I thought was okay. He started going in round 3. And I think it kind of went too far. And then this year, the class is so bad, the draft capital is so bad, the landing spots are so bad that even these rookie freaks, these people that are obsessed with rookies, they're not even taking rookies high. So the cost on rookies right now, outside of Jeremiah Love, is very, very cheap. So I'm actually trying to buy on rookies where I can, because I just think the rest of the market has given up on them.
Are you looking at draft capital specifically, like day 1 and day 2 versus day 3? Does that make a difference to you? Obviously, Deshaun Stribling, for example, a surprise no one was expecting at the first pick of round 2, and a lot of people criticize that. A lot of the ball knowers, the quote unquote draft experts, he was a day 3. He's a day 3 talent. He's not really a day 2 talent. How does draft capital influence how you're kind of sifting through these and how you're putting together your portfolio when looking at all these different rookie? I mean, I think 20 plus receivers just taken in the first 3 or 4 rounds alone.
Yeah, the biggest signal we have is draft capital, right? The biggest signal we have, the correlation between rookie production and anything is between rookie production and where they are drafted. So yes, it matters a ton. And there's a lot of things that are reasons for that. Good players get drafted earlier, sure, but also teams are more committed to a player who they take at 33 overall versus a guy they take in round 5. So I had some hope for, guys like Katron Allen and Nick Singleton and Denzel Boston. And they all went, kind of later than I thought that they would. And that's scary to me. And I think that's part of what makes this class worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking in, we'll dive into risers first. We'll go through position by position here, sticking to kind of the rookie talk. I see Mendoza as a slight faller over the last week, over the last month. There's talk of Kirk Cousins starting the few first weeks of the season. Are you buying into that at all? I find it hard to believe personally that Mendoza, all the hype going into his rookie year, number 1 overall pick, projected that for a very long time before the draft even happened, that he's not going to start week 1. But maybe it's the offensive line concerns, et cetera, easing him into his career. What are your thoughts on Cousins rising versus Mendoza falling? And I guess similarly, when you look at Carson Beck versus Jacoby Brissett, Michael Penix versus Tua, you see rising and falling on both of those ends right now. How are you treating those potential QB battles and situations?
Yeah, I think Mendoza is a good pick. I mean, I'm not sure he's going to start week 1, but there are people out there saying he's not going to play at all, or he's only going to play 8 games. I don't see how that's possible because Kirk Cousins, A, isn't very good at this point in his career, and B, is a pretty big favorite to get hurt. So, yeah, I think Mendoza will play at least 12 or 13 games this year would be my guess. And at that, I definitely think that he's a good pick where he goes, which is like, late 150s. Maybe you'll get into the 160s here at some point on DK. I'm not really taking Brissett or Beck. I would wait for more clarity there. I could easily see them being so bad, or Jacoby Brissett wants too much money, and we see more Beck than we want to see. Yeah, what was the last one you asked about? I forget.
Penix and Tua. It seems like
Oh, yeah.
Penix is getting all the steam right now, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be positive reports, like so much of the market is just responding this time of year to reports. Does it matter that the Falcons coaches say, yeah, we think Penix is going to be fine by September or whatever? I don't put much stock in that at all. So I'd probably wait for a little more clarity before I started drafting Penix or Tua there. I think they'll both make a bunch of starts this year for sure.
Yeah. I see Tyler Shuck is a guy, like, I think besides Malik Willis, he was my highest drafted quarterback just pre-free agency, even before we got news starting from a couple months ago. And now you see they had they had Jordan Tyson, they had Oscar Delp, they had Bryce Land. So I think 3 or 4 pass catchers just in their first 6 picks. You're going to see him continue to rise, I'm guessing. What are your thoughts on the Saints? I heard you and Evan talking about it in a recent episode. It's like, well, we think that the Saints offense is going to get a lot of hype, and rightfully so. Do you still think there's value there on that Saints? It feels like one of the things I know for sure going into 2026 is that I want pieces of Kellen Moore's offense due to the sheer volume of plays, snaps, and pace. Do you think that's caught up, or do you still think there's any kind of edge to be had there?
It's tough. We're at 118 overall on Tyler Shuck, which I think is pretty aggressive. Maybe we could get a little bit higher, but market is already up. He's going like 111, 112. So yeah, that's exactly what I was worried about, is that it is clear that the Saints are set up very, very well this year. It's going to be hard pressed to find anyone who's like, you know what, I don't really want any Saints at these prices. So yeah, I think it's going to continue to rise. So I think right now they're still good picks, but at some point they're going to get to a point where they might be too expensive. They might be.
Yeah, I had Tyler Shuck a couple months ago when I did my initial best ball rankings as QB 15, and it's looking. I think at the time it was like 7 or 8 spots ahead of consensus. Now it's only 3 spots ahead of ECR at Fantasy Pros at least. So
yeah,
interesting to see how that plays out for sure. Because it's like, having him in that same spot around Brock Purdy, Bo Nix. Makes sense, but like, can you really put him in a tier above those guys? I think that's, again, what you said. Like, I think that's probably taking it a little bit too far. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Talking about the running back position in terms of risers, obviously Jadarian Price going at the end of round 1 to Seattle. And there's a lot of things still that are going to shake out there, right? Like, when is Sharps going to be back? How are we going to see George Halani versus Emmanuel Wilson? Is there any specific running back that you prefer to target out of those 4 when it comes to ADP? And what are your thoughts on Seattle's backfield right now?
Yeah. I think Jadarian Price is going to keep getting more expensive, so I want to get him now. Like, if I'm going to draft Jadarian Price, I want to draft him now. I think there are outcomes where he ends up too expensive for me because we have seen Seattle use committee before. We know they love Charbonnet. He's going to be back at some point, maybe in the fantasy playoffs or the best ball playoffs, which would be a disaster. And I have big questions about Jadarian Price's pass catching game also. So I think at like pick 58 or 57 where he's going now, yes, I take him there. I take him there a lot as he gets up into the 40s, which I think he eventually will. I would probably pass there on Jadarian Price. I think the downside scenarios are just higher than people give it credit for, given the way Seattle prefers to use their running backs.
Is there any running backs, just whether it's ADP, whether it's draft capital, landing spot, because we didn't see any other day 1 or day 2 running back taken other than the surprise pick of Kalen Black to the 49ers. Everyone else is a day 3 pick. Before we get into any other specific names in terms of ADP, is there any running backs that you actually are bullish on following the draft?
Yeah, I thought it was a good run out for Cam Scadaboo and Tyrone Tracy both. I thought it was a good run out for the Panthers guys, Jonathan Brooks and uh Chuba Hubbard. I thought it was honestly like I know they took Katron Allen, but it's a pretty good run out for Jacoby Krosky Merritt and Rashad White also. So yeah, I think all those guys are interesting. Like none of them are exciting or sexy, but I think all those guys are at least interesting, and their teams showed some level of faith in them by not spending much draft capital at the running back position in the draft.
Yeah, another similar one, like you see Nicholas Singleton going to Tennessee, and now Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears are both ADP risers post draft. What are your thoughts on Tennessee backfield? Do you think Singleton can actually make a dent there as a rookie, or do you think it's valid that we see Pollard and Spears both rising right now?
I don't think that we should be affecting Tony Pollard stuff based on a round 5 rookie. And I
Yeah.
like Nick Singleton. You know, he's a Penn State guy. He's athletic, but I would probably think his most likely year one role, if he makes the team, would be mostly on kick returns. Would be my guess. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think people are getting excited of like, oh, well, that's the most beatable backfield in terms of these rookie landing spots. But it's like the guy is still a round 5 rookie. He's still a day 3 pick, and that means a big difference there. Adam Randall is a rookie that is listed on the risers list, and obviously, big frame, converted positional player. How do you see him in year one? Like, do you think he could be just a straight up handcuff and replacement if Derrick Henry were to ever get hurt? Or are you eyeing him at all in the later rounds of any of these best ball drafts?
Yeah, I haven't been. I mean, I would rather take Justice Hill. If you
Okay.
just need like, hey, give me 8 points or 10 points, that Justice Hill, I think is a better bet than Adam Randall. You're basically saying though, if Derrick Henry gets hurt, what happens? I think they'd expand Justice Hill's role pretty decently, and even if Adam Randall's like on the team and active, it wouldn't be that great for him. You would still have Lamar Jackson running more around the goal line without Derrick Henry in there. So yeah, we don't even have Adam Randall in our top 300 right now.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. That makes sense for year one for sure. Somebody asked me, I do these weekly Fantasy Pros dynasty chats in their Discord, and somebody asked me last night, Chris Brooks or Marshawn Lloyd. And I'm like, I really hope you don't pick up either of those guys. But do you have any type of read or thoughts on like who could be actually the Jacobs handcuff heading into 2026 as well?
Oh, it was a good run out for Marshawn Lloyd and Chris Brooks. They needed running back help, and they did not address it.
Right.
If Marshawn Lloyd can sustain health, I think he's actually like legit good and could carve out like a Blake Corum type role behind Josh Jacobs. But I have zero faith whatsoever that he can sustain health. Like it feels so
Right.
much like the Kendry Miller situation. So I've lost way too much money on Marshawn Lloyd in my career. I think that I'm probably going to take it easy on that spot this year. I know they talked up Chris Brooks also a little bit. It just doesn't strike me that it's going to be clean if Josh Jacobs gets hurt. Like I just don't think it's going to be that clean.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, so we'll move on to wide receiver. I know you mentioned Jaden Reed on the Established to Run Market Monday podcast from 2 days ago. Matthew Golden is also listed as a slight ADP riser. Do you think there's any value in Golden versus Reed? I think I saw like Dwayne McFarland had Reed projected for like an 80% route share going into this season, but it kind of seems hard to believe, even given the personnel there. What are your thoughts on the Green Bay Packers wide receiver room right now in terms of ADP movement?
Yeah, 80% would shock me on Jaden Reed. I mean, he was at 67% in the games that he played last year, so it's not that far off, I guess. I thought there was like a little bit more room for him if something happens on the outside to the other guys. In other words, would you rather go if something happened to Christian Watson or Matthew Golden? Would the Packers rather go to Jaden Reed out there or Savion Williams, Bo Melton, whatever else? I think it's a way better chance this year it'll be Jaden Reed. But just on his slot role alone, them I think they're going to throw more when they're healthy. Like, yeah, I think all the Packers are underrated right now. Watson,
Mm-hmm.
Reed, and Matthew Golden. Like there are outcomes where they throw way more, and it's to these 4 guys, Kraft plus the 3 wide receivers. So yeah, Green Bay is one of my favorite stacks, right now, I would say.
Okay. I guess similarly, to a lesser talent extent, the Las Vegas Raiders haven't seemed to address any pass catching other than just having Brock Bowers at tight end. Jalen Naylor and Trey Tucker both listed as ADP risers right now. Do you think that's going to change? I mean, like, we have those veteran names out there, Juwan Jennings. Um, is it going to be one of those landing spots where that kind of changes the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 scenario there? What are your thoughts on those two guys?
Yeah, I would. If I had Fernando Mendoza, I would be looking to get Diggs or Juwan Jennings or, someone like reliable. Like, I don't really love Ayuk. It's just like too volatile and too messy. I kind of think Debo Samuel is toast, but like
Yeah.
Diggs and Juwan Jennings stick out to me as guys that the Raiders should be trying to get to help Fernando Mendoza. And then also, like, it's wide receiver is not like running back. You actually have to be good to win at the wide receiver position in the NFL. You can be mediocre at the running back position. And if your offensive line is good, the offense is good, you score a bunch of touchdowns. Like, it's easy to score a lot of fantasy points. Wide receiver is not the case. So I have questions how good Jalen Naylor or Trey Tucker are that they should be getting pushed up the way people are pushing them up right now. And that's even without thinking about Diggs or Juwan Jennings landing there.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. Talking about rookie riders, last wide receiver riser for the rookie, I mentioned Stribling earlier. Very good draft capital, obviously, going to a situation where it's like, okay, they have Kirk, they have Mike Evans. Do you see him making a dent anywhere there? He's a riser, and then I see Kirk listed as a faller. Do you think that's valid, or do you think that maybe that's a little just overreaction to the 49ers reaching on yet another guy in the draft?
Yeah, say that again. I didn't catch who the riser and faller was there. Stribling
yeah, I see Stribling as a riser post draft, and then Kirk as a faller.
Yeah. I think that's valid, man. Don't you think that they are, like, everybody's making fun of them, everybody's saying they're idiots. They're pretty motivated to get Stribling on the field early and have success with him. Like, I know that sounds like a crazy thing, but if I was them, I'd be like, yeah, we're going to show you guys Stribling's going to ball out. And like, I don't think it's crazy to think that Stribling could be better than Christian Kirk. I know everybody hates Stribling. Like, who is Christian Kirk at this point in his career? I don't think that there's much of a ceiling there whatsoever. So yeah, I think that's right. I think Stribling should be rising and Kirk falling.
Yeah, just based on the last, what I think from April 1st to May 1st. So not updated over the last couple days, but Stribling is listed as the highest ADP riser out of everybody, all positions. I think 55 plus spots is what I'm looking at here. So yeah, I mean, like they took him that high for a reason. I don't trust Kyle Shanahan when it comes to the running back picks, and usually whether it's round 2, round 3, it's hit or miss whether those guys even see the field at all in their first couple seasons in the NFL. But wide receivers a little bit different. I think a lot of it will come down to training camp news and reports that we hear out of San Francisco over the course of the offseason. But I agree with you. I definitely think that there could be some sneaky value there as well. Moving on to tight end, like one guy I was super high on, and I'm pretty sure you guys were too, after the 2025 season ended, is Terrence Ferguson, right? Like, talented, athletic tight end. Tyler Higbee's aging. Colby Parkinson, yeah, he'll mix in, but he's more of a blocker. But then they spent a second-round pick on Max Clare, who actually, in my rookie model, graded out pretty well in terms of his production, his ability to beat zone coverage. What are your thoughts on what it seems like now a crowded tight end room? I see Clare and Colby Parkinson both listed as slight risers. At the same time now, Terrence Ferguson a slight faller, with Higbee still in the mix. Are you trying to throw darts on any of those guys in that tight end room in Los Angeles right now?
Yeah, it would be Ferguson only for me. We're at 193 on Ferguson. I know that he's falling. His ADP I see is 213 on DraftKings. So yeah, I like taking Ferguson. I understand it's very, very, very crowded. It doesn't mean it's going to be that way all year. Tyler Higbee has a long history of injuries. We don't know that they're going to play Max Clare here in year one very much. So, and they're going to run, a ton of 2 and 3 tight end sets, obviously. And then Davante Adams has not been the picture of health, man, and they do not have much at wide receiver behind him. So you start pushing some targets there if Davante Adams misses games, which I think he will. And the way Puka Nacua plays, he can miss games also. So I don't want to overthink it. Like, Terrence Ferguson, good player with a good quarterback, showed enough last year where I think he's worth it, very late. Again, we have him at 193.
Similar, like, free agency / rookie edition, now potential tight end battles. Your boy Theo Johnson from Penn State, New York, dealing with Isaiah Likely there. Let's start with that situation. Like, is it likely just going to be the clear tight end starter there? Because I thought Theo showed some glimpses of potential talent and production over the last season, developed some rapport with Jackson Dart when they were on the field together. Do you see that as like a likely clear 1A, 1B, or more of a tight end committee there in New York?
Yeah. We have likely very far ahead. We have likely 163 and Theo 229. I'm like not overly comfortable with that, but likely is Harbaugh's guy that he brings in. I do think likely is a better natural pass catcher, even though I think Theo is like a pretty good pass catcher
Right.
also. So yeah, I mean, we're below market on both of them right now, both likely and Theo. I, it doesn't strike me that it's going to be like a huge volume spot, especially if Malik Neighbors comes back healthy. And we are projecting Malik Neighbors to come back mostly healthy, not all the way, but mostly healthy sometime in September.
Similar battles, but with rookies thrown into the mix. How are you adjusting your ADPs and rankings on Juwan Johnson versus Oscar Delp coming into town? And then on the flip side with Denver, Evan Ingram, and then drafting Justin Jolly.
It's not just Delp, right? Don't they have Noah Fant also, so they
That's
have
right. Yeah.
Delp,
Yeah.
Juwan Johnson, and Noah Fant. So it's really tough. I mean, we want to try to stay high on Juwan Johnson. He showed good rapport with Tyler Shuck last year. I believe they had a little shower narrative going on from college. I could be off there, but I vaguely remember that. And, he's a good pass catcher, Juwan Johnson. Like, he's like borderline, plays wide receiver for them. So there's a lot of different roles. And like, this is going to be a big theme of this season. How are they using tight ends? Like, if Delp and Fant are going to play in line, maybe that frees up Juwan Johnson to play more wide receiver stuff, or maybe that takes him off the field, and like that's like really important stuff for this year as all these teams go to more tight end stuff. I'm okay with Juwan Johnson where he goes, like 150. I'm not taking Delp or Fant really.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. Just looking at the tight end position, another riser, Gunnar Helm, seems like he had a really clean run out with Chigakonkwo
Mm-hmm.
going to Washington. Them not, I think they added a super late round tight end. Obviously, they added Tate, but maybe that's a good thing for that offense and freeing up some targets for the tight end. And Gunnar Helm, what are your thoughts on him as a riser?
I thought he was impressive as a rookie. I mean, he comes in and Chig is an established NFL player, and he immediately takes playing time and targets away from Chig, earned targets at a decently high rate. Yeah, I think he should be rising. Let me see how far he's gone. Yeah, we're still ahead. I mean, we're at 183 on Helm, and he's at 187 now in ADP. So we're still ahead, but yeah, he's rising fast. He might eclipse our rank at some point here soon. Again, we're at 183 on Helm, and I like that. I think there's a ceiling there.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Going into the fall, well, actually, one thing I was going to bring this up in the news section, but also a riser, Tucker Kraft. I think the news came out about an hour ago. We're recording here 5 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, May 6th, that he's ahead of schedule in his recovery, should be back, quote unquote, early in the season. I mean, maybe that's just BS. Maybe that doesn't really change or mean anything, but how are you adjusting or monitoring the Tucker Kraft situation in Green Bay, given we talked about the receivers earlier as well?
Yeah, I want to bet on him. It's tough. People are not discounting him at all. I think his ADP is up around like 75. That's high for someone coming off of the injury that Tucker Kraft is coming off of. So we'll likely keep getting up a little bit higher and higher as the health stuff looks better. But for now, I think that's pretty high on Tucker Kraft. There's a lot of tight ends to take, man. I mean, a lot as more teams play more and more tight ends on the field. So I don't really feel a need to force it on Kraft at 74, especially if guys like Bowers and McBride are gonna be going in the 20s. That's kind of close to Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, I was interested to see Kraft still has like a rock solid ADP and just expert consensus ranking of tight end 5 overall, still ahead of Laporta, still ahead of Tyler Warren, Kyle Pitts. I kind of group him in the same tier, but still with like McBride, Bowers, Loveland. I would put Fannin above with Kraft just because the health reliability for now. But yeah, obviously the potential later in the season for best ball could make a big difference there. Going over to fallers, Malik Willis for me was my highest drafted quarterback pre-free agency. And obviously the free agency landing spot wasn't the most exciting going to Miami. Then they trade away Jalen Waddle. And he's listed as a faller here, even though just a slight faller. I mean, still think all the priors make sense. If he can even be a mediocre passing efficiency quarterback, but still offer that elite rushing upside, if the Dolphins are going to be trailing big time in these games and they're just kind of they're going to let him loose to run wild, I find it hard to believe he's going to have like a flop type of season like Justin Fields has when he got his chance to start post Chicago. So I feel like I'm still bullish on Willis, but maybe not as bullish as I was when the offseason began. What are your thoughts on Willis as a faller, and where are you guys adjusting him in your rankings?
I mean, if you're confident he's not going to get benched, that he's going to start every game that he's healthy for, I think it's a great pick. You
Right.
know, and I thought Justin Fields, if he had kept the job all last year, would have been fine. You know, yeah, he had some 4-point games, some 5-point games. He was going to have 20 and 30-point games, like for sure. He was going to run for multiple touchdowns in a game, but he got benched. He played so bad that he got benched. Could it get that bad for Malik Willis where he should be benched? Yeah, it could. Look at what's around him. I mean, they have the worst roster in the NFL, but the difference this time is they made a little bit bigger commitment to Willis. I think they're going to stick with him and just ride it out, you know, just ride it out with him. So I'm pretty confident he's not going to be benched. I take him a lot because I think like the pocket passers are going too early, like the Stafford, Dak, Goff types are going too early. And so that leaves me kind of not wanting those guys right now with their ADP. So a lot of times I get caught and I'm just like, you know what? I'll just take some naked Malik Willis here. And I think that's good. You know, I do think it's good.
Yeah, I know at least before the draft, I was wanting to come away with either Malik Willis or Tyler Shuck in almost every single draft, or even both of them in some cases, because with the sneaky upside that on the ground that Tyler Shuck provides as well in a much better situation. So yeah, I'm with you on Malik Willis on the upside there. Similarly, like, you know, a lot of us thought Malik Willis he was going to end up in Arizona, and we have a big shakeup in Arizona in the backfield with them drafting Jeremiah Love. Tyler Algier was my favorite pre-free agency pick, and even when he went to Arizona, I was a little disappointed. Then them drafting Love, we see huge drops. I think the two biggest ADP fallers overall, all positions over the last month, are Tyler Algier and James Conner. But Jeremiah Love is also listed as a slight faller as well. So a lot of people are scared of the running back upside on this offense on a potential tanking team. I guess I'll just ask you for the entire running back room for Arizona. Like, do you think there's now value on Love? Are you completely avoiding Algier and Connor? What are your thoughts on how you guys are adjusting there?
I'm not convinced Connor is going to be on the team. Like, does he really want to play like this bit role behind Jeremiah Love and Algier? Like,
right.
Why not let him go somewhere? I think James Conner can probably still play a little bit. Why not let him go somewhere where he'll actually be able to play either via trade or release or whatever it is. So if we can get that and it gets down to 2, I do think there's value on both of them, Love and Algier. I think people are panicking probably a little bit too hard. I saw Love, you know, go in at like 25, 26, 27 on DraftKings at times. I think he's a pick there. You know, you don't use number 3 overall pick on a guy not to use him a ton. Algier, we're at 157 on DraftKings. ADP is getting up to 155. So we're like kind of, he's falling to a point where he's in line with us now, Algier. So to me, the bigger concern is just like, how many touchdowns is this team going to score? And then you have to give a bunch of touchdowns to Trey McBride and yards and catches, Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson. It's, you know, even Kendrick Bourne is on this team. Like, they have a lot of guys to go to on what could be a really bad offense. And obviously that's not good for Jeremiah Love. So from a projection standpoint, I get why people want to be out on Jeremiah Love. If you think he's some sensational talent like Jahmyr Gibbs-esque, then I kind of do. I think at pick 25 is still pretty good.
Yeah, man, I know a lot of people that have him rated as a better prospect than even Ashton Genty coming into last year, and you can't think the situation is going to get much worse than that for sure, especially with the pass catching upside there. I think it all but erases any value that Tyler Algier had for those couple months where we thought he could be a lead back and one of the top free agency additions as well. There's the last running back faller / situation I'll ask you about. I mentioned Kalen Black before being the only day 2 running back pick. You know, it's kind of a loaded mess there in terms of who's going to be the RB2, right? Could it be Kalen Black? Could it be Jordan James, who we briefly saw last season? I think Isaac Guerendo is still on the roster. How are you all adjusting and ranking those guys, or do any of those guys even crack your top 300 right now?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're in the top 300. All 3 of them actually are all in the top 300. All 4 of them, if you count Christian McCaffrey, because if you play running back and you get on the field for Kyle Shanahan, you're going to score fantasy points. Like we have seen this from guys who are not very good before. Garendo, Jordan Mason, Patrick Taylor, all kinds of guys. Elijah Mitchell, all kinds of guys have stepped in for McCaffrey and had really good games in spot starts. And so I don't know which one it's going to be. My bet would probably be on Kalen Black, but Jordan James or Isaac Garendo, that wouldn't shock me either. So we're kind of like have it flat right now with those guys. I would probably wait for more clarity. And this is one of the reasons that drafting in May, yes, you get some really good ADP values, but it's also really hard to have like a full team for the playoffs because I could take Kalen Black here and he could be a 0. Come August, it could just be like, oh, yeah, Kalen Black is actually way behind Jordan James and Isaac Garendo. And then it's like, well, I burned a pick here in May and I end up with a 0. But yeah, so I'll probably avoid that situation for now just because I'm so averse to taking zeros. But I think if we get clarity on it, my bet would probably be on Kalen Black, like just as like the newest guy that they went out and got.
Yeah, I would have to lean slightly to that as well. Jordan James, a much later round pick, and Garendo's been having trouble just staying on the field healthy, even as a backup. So I agree with you there. Wide receiver fallers. Obviously, we talked about the Titan situation. Gunnar Helm is a riser, but then we see multiple wide receiver fallers, both DK and Wandale. They added Carnell Tate, who should be the number one receiver there. But do you think that both these guys, are you making adjustments and pulling both these guys down in your rankings? Or do you think that maybe is a little overreaction compared to the money they paid Wandale? He could still stay on the field as a borderline full-time wide receiver in the slot there. How are you handling what seems now like a crowded wide receiver room in Tennessee?
I mean, Wandale is Brian Daboll's boy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he got 140 targets in back-to-back seasons under Daboll. I don't think Wandale Robinson's game really deserves that or the contract, but that's what Daboll gave him and used him in that way. So I'm hesitant to totally bury Wandale. We have him at 111. We have Carnell Tate at 70 and Calvin Ridley at 165. Tate, I have some concerns that like I get Jeremiah Smith was there, but if you're gonna be number 4 overall pick in the draft, shouldn't you have had some like huge games against tough competition in college, even though Jeremiah Smith was there? So I struggle a little bit on Carnell Tate. We're like 6 spots behind ADP on him. And the other part of this equation for all these guys, do you think Cam Ward is good? I saw some stuff in the rookie year from Cam Ward I thought was really, really, really good. I saw some stuff that I thought was really, really, really bad. It's hard to get an evaluation when the team around him was such a disaster. If you think Cam Ward's really good, then yes, you should be buying Tate and Robinson and Ridley. I think I'm more of the belief that like I'm a little shaky on Cam Ward, so I'm not that excited about these guys.
Yeah, I'm with you being shaky on Cam Ward. I think when you look at Wandale, there could be good opportunity there, especially in DraftKings best ball full PPR format, where he could still just frankly be the layup target guy for Cam Ward, right? Because you're going to have Tate, maybe Ridley. Can Ridley even stay healthy at this point on the outside? And I wouldn't assume that would be their 2 main receivers full time, anyways. Wandale could mix in, like you said, as Brian Daboll's boy there. And maybe we could just see a lot of Gunnar Helm and Wandale while Tate struggles to acclimate in his rookie year. Ridley struggles to stay on the field. We didn't really see enough out of DK and Io Manor to really think that they're really going to emerge in year 2 as well. So, yeah, I'm with you on the kind of ambiguity, possible value there for sure in the later rounds. I guess a similar situation, like one that I was surprised of was I see both Coker and Chris Brazzell listed as fallers from the Panthers, whereas I thought we saw a really nice late season mini breakout from Jalen Coker, obviously Ted McMillan there. And Brazzell seems like, obviously one of those Tennessee guys where does his game really translate to the NFL level? And I'm not really sure if I'm willing to buy that. I still think it could be a lot of Tet and a lot of Coker next year in Carolina. Are you dropping them both in the rankings just in terms of purely competing with each other for targets, or how are you treating those guys there?
I mean, I just think with Bryce Young at quarterback, Tet's going too high. Tet is going 37 overall right now. We're at 45 overall. I don't think the Brazzell thing is anything to do with that. I just think, yeah, it's just people are overvaluing Tedoroy McMillan. I think we're like right in line with market on Coker. And yeah, we don't really have Brazzell as draftable. I mean, I do think that he'll be ahead of Xavier Legette. I think they've had enough of Xavier Legette, but a third receiver for Bryce Young is just like, I don't think you're going to find a ceiling there, even if Chris Brazzell breaks this Tennessee wide receiver trend.
Yeah, I still think there's like I don't know if I'm going to drop Coker at all in my rankings. It's just I do agree with you that Tate is too high, but I feel like Coker has that kind of slot role padded down for himself pretty well. Another potential slot receiver, this one in Philly with the Eagles drafting and trading up to draft Mekhi Lemon. I was surprised to see him as a slight faller in ADP. Obviously, we're all expecting them to trade AJ Brown. So if it's just Dontavian Wicks, Mekhi Lemon, Devonta Smith, like, are we sure we want to be dinging Mekhi Lemon just because of like, oh, he's entering a run first team? They're not the most modern, the most passing efficient offense in the league. What are your thoughts overall? I know you said you didn't really like Tate as a prospect, which I'm in alignment with you on. I did really like Lemon a lot as a prospect. I think he could be the best receiver in this class. Not the best landing spot, but how are you treating him in the rankings right now?
Yeah, I really like Mekhi Lemon also. I think the reason that he's falling is twofold. He went later than people thought that he would go. There was some talk early on he'd go in the top 10, maybe he'd go 13 to the Rams. He ends up going 20th, does Mekhi Lemon. So that's one part of it. And the other part is just people think that Jalen Hurts is like the worst quarterback in the history of the world. I mean, if you just go back 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I thought Jalen Hurts played really well at times and supported 2 fantasy wide receivers. Also, now it's a little different this year because they do have Dontavian Wicks, they do have Hollywood Brown, they drafted Eli Stowers, and they brought back Dallas Goedert. So it is crowded there for a run first team with questionable efficiency. I think getting rid of Patullo makes a big difference also. So the ADP on Lemon's going to keep sinking. Like, I haven't taken him yet because he was like, his ADP was so high from before the draft. We have him around pick 105. I'm probably personally a little bit higher on Mekhi Lemon than that, but I think you'll be able to get him at 105 eventually is my point. Like, people really don't like this landing spot for Mekhi Lemon. And they keep throwing out this stat, Jalen Hurts can't throw over the middle, doesn't throw over the middle. I think that's like fancy play syndrome. Like, if you're good players, or if he had Amon-Ra St. Brown, it'd be a different story, like he'd be throwing over the middle, So I'm not trying to overthink it. Mekhi Lemon's a good player. I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback, despite what people want to say. I'm still in on Mekhi Lemon.
Last faller I want to ask you about at wide receiver. I had Peter Overzet on my show a couple weeks ago, asked him what his favorite pre-draft pick was in best ball. He said it was Travis Hunter. So that's one guy where it's like huge discrepancy in terms of how people feel about him on the extremes, whether positive or negative. What are your thoughts on Travis Hunter, and where are you guys ranking him right now?
The ranking stuff is so hard because I think they'll start the year with Travis Hunter as a gadget player. Like, almost certainly. Like, everything they've done, all their actions since the season ended has been not good for Travis Hunter as a wide receiver. But it's a long season. They're sputtering in the pass game. Someone gets hurt. Who knows? He's getting burned at corner. I mean, who knows? There's so many different paths to him getting on the field. And I thought towards the end, when he was actually running all the routes before he got hurt, I thought he had pretty good games at wide receiver. So I like that. It's just really hard from a rankings perspective. Like, people are going to keep taking him above our rank because of the name value. It's just hard on the projectable volume front. Like, if he went 6 weeks and only got 1 target a game, that would not shock me. It would not shock me. So, yeah.
Right. I mean, like, he was struggling he didn't have over 65 yards in a game until that one game in London before he got hurt and his season ended, right? 14 targets, 8 catches, a touchdown, and then it all goes downhill and his season ends, right? And then you see in that same type of slot role, Parker Washington emerged at the end of last season. You say, man, like, Parker Washington became Trevor Lawrence's go-to target, even over Jacoby Myers, over BTJ. So, like, it just seems to me like that if you can command targets in that slot role for Liam Cohen with a competent quarterback, right? Like, who can be that Chris Godwin who was the wide receiver 1 in fantasy over, like before he got hurt 2 seasons ago when Liam Cohen was running the offense in Tampa Bay. Like, we saw that glimpse of like, oh, it could have been Travis Hunter if he didn't get hurt and end his season. And then it could have even been Parker Washington, right? So it's like, my question is like, do I still remain bullish on Parker Washington? Because how is he going to lose all the production and targets he got at the end of last season? But Hunter wasn't there. He just frankly wasn't healthy. So I'm really interested to see, because like if you can tell me one of those two guys is going to be that full-time slot player in that offense, like I feel like I want to be drafting a ton of whoever that guy is.
That's so hard. I don't have a great feel for Jacksonville wide receiver right now. I think Parker Washington is probably going too high. I think Jacoby Myers is probably going too late. Brian Thomas is probably going too high. So, and I think Travis Hunter is probably going like he's going like the 150s, like for a guy who could just be a gadget guy for maybe the whole season. We don't know. That's pretty high too. So yeah, it's a mess in the Jacksonville pass catching stuff right now.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be really hard to figure out and pinpoint for sure. Last one, a couple followers on tight end. Dalton Kincaid, obviously the Bills adding Skylar Bell in the draft, even though he was a day 3 pick. Bringing in DJ Moore via trade. Are you also knocking him in terms of ADP movement that you've been seeing compared to your rankings with Dalton Kincaid?
Not really. We're at 114 on Kincaid. We were kind of there before the draft, so we were lower than market before the draft on Kincaid. Just as like one of these tight ends, if you cannot play most of the snaps, you can only play 50, 60% of the snaps. It's just really hard to have that specialized role and find the ceiling in fantasy. So I think Dalton Kincaid can have a couple big games, but he's not someone that I'm like dying to draft. I'm right in line with market on him.
The other one I want to mention before we move to some quick final strategy here is Harold Fannin. I see him listed as falling a couple spots over the last month. You know, them drafting 2 receivers in the first 2 rounds with Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston, but David Njoku's still leaving, right? And like we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. I just feel like Fannin's a guy I don't want to be bumping down, even though they're adding 2 receivers into the mix there. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah. I think one of the reasons he's coming down is because this Deshaun Watson talk. I mean, the last time Deshaun Watson played, it was so bad. I cannot believe they're thinking about going back to Deshaun Watson. So that's my biggest concern. Beyond that, yeah, I think Fannon's a pretty good pick. He's not cheap. You know, I think he goes around pick 80 or so, but he's not cheap, but I think he's pretty good pick.
Yeah. In terms of your favorite stacks so far in post-draft best ball, I know you mentioned the Packers earlier as one of your favorite teams to stack. Any other, whether it's middle round, late round, backdoor stacks, like what are you seeing right now in the drafts you're participating in?
Yeah, I end up with the Malik Willis into Caleb Douglas or Chris Bell or Malik Washington or just naked Malik Willis a decent amount. I think the Detroit stuff is a little bit underrated now. I personally take Jahmyr Gibbs at 1.1. I know a lot of people are taking Bijan Robinson 1 overall right now. I take Gibbs, so I end up with more Lion stuff. I think Jameson Williams and Tesla and Laporta are all a little bit underrated, and same with Amon Ra there too, honestly. So yeah, I would say Detroit and Green Bay are probably 2 of my most, and New Orleans, obviously. And New Orleans would be some of my most owned stacks right now.
Yeah, I was saying pre-draft, I was taking a lot of Shuck, then add on Juwan, Olave, a lot of Vele as well in the super late rounds, and he's going to probably fall a lot because they added Bryce Young, they added Tyson. We'll see how Tyson's health shakes out early in the season as well. But yeah, I'm definitely with you on the New Orleans side for sure. Any news angles you guys are watching as a team now with your projections, your rankings over the course of the offseason? I saw on the underdog blurbs, like Emmett Johnson drew a comp to LaShawn McCoy from Andy Reid. Even though it doesn't seem like he has much room to do much as a rookie, we'll see there. I know you've been heavy on the C-Rod versus Tootin Jaguars backfield breakdown. What are you looking forward to most in terms of just off-season news and training camp battles, et cetera?
Yeah, I think the market is sharp enough to not really move on things like Andy Reid compares Emmett Johnson to LaShawn McCoy. I would hope people aren't moving on stuff like that. There's not a lot of hard news this time of year. So we are doing our best guesses in a lot of spots. Like we were just working on Chargers running back right before I came on here. And like, what do we think happens if Hampton gets hurt? How much is Vidal going to play versus Keaton Mitchell? Can Keaton Mitchell sustain more than 10 touches in a game? And like all that stuff is what we're concentrating on. And yeah, maybe there's some quote unquote news. A beat writer has a take. I know there were some beat writer takes yesterday about Corum versus Kyron. We take that as a data point. Certainly don't adjust stuff based on, beat writer speculation. We think we're actually better at doing that than if they're just going to speculate. But yeah, not a lot of news this time of year. Next time we'll get news of the mini camp and we'll probably have some more hard news to move off of there. I do think the injury update stuff is important. Like Mahomes, I think he has a pretty good chance to play week 1, and we don't have it projected that way right now, but would not shock me if Mahomes ended up playing week 1. We mentioned the Charbonnet rehab, I think, is a really important spot for Jadarian Price, Malik Neighbors status. So those are the big ones, I think, that the injury stuff to watch here between May and June.
Yeah, I saw Kittle now expected back by week 1 too.
Which one? Who'd you say?
I think George Kittle. I saw he was
Kittle.
expected
Yeah.
week 1. Yeah.
He wants to be. Wouldn't shock me. I mean, he wants to be. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, a lot of news for sure. All right, man. Well, that does it for today. Appreciate Adam you hopping on. Real quick, just wanted to see, like, I know you're doing the Market Monday podcast for ETR. That's once per week, I think. Or what else can we expect from the ETR podcast and what you guys are doing over the offseason?
Yeah, if you're on YouTube, you can check us out. It's free. Establish the Run YouTube. We do at least 2 shows a week that we think are timely and relevant. And then we'll also be doing a best ball draft with Herzig and me or someone else weekly, and kind of talk through strategy and players as we do the draft there once a week. So yeah, you can check it out. Roughly 3 shows a week over there for free on the Establish the Run channel.
And on the website, you guys have what? Updated daily, updated weekly, best ball rankings, dynasty rankings, all that stuff.
Updated by the minute, buddy. We are employing people to be glued 24/7 to be sure that our rankings are as updated as possible. So yes, it's not a glamorous life, but it is a life, and we are on it as soon as any news happens.
I love it, man. And anyone that ever asks me, like, hey, Chris, like, where do you go to look at other rankings? What rankings do you recommend? First answer is always Establish the Run. I've been following you guys since you started that company. Well, I think maybe almost 5-6 years ago now at this point. I'm losing track, but it seems like you guys are only getting better year after year, refining your process, trying to think forward, bring on the best team members. And it's really cool to see what you guys have built over there. So I really appreciate you hopping on today, sharing your best ball thoughts on risers and fallers. Looking forward to more Market Monday podcast.